threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into a space and time attuned to the other, into an awareness of new life, pregnant with possibility. How will we be renewed this morning? How will we be changed by this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, you longing and thirsty souls. Come, let's worship together. Oh. Charlotte Harden will light our chalice this morning. We light this chalice to ignite the divine spark in the universe, whose pronouns have always been plural, a co-creation of brilliance and diversity, a tapestry of souls perfected. Our opening song this morning is hymn number 189, Light of Ages and Nations. Please stand as you are willing and able. It's not always easy to find love at the center. There's not a set of easy instructions, numbered 1 through 7, or maybe even 8. It's not always easy to find love at the center. Today, in Covenant, we celebrate our living tradition, which invites us to take a deep breath of fresh air into the newness of every day, so our minds, our hearts, and spirits can be continually nourished. It's not always easy to find love at the center. So for today, we gather in Covenant to celebrate the reality that love is at the core of our beings, and that love will guide us if we open ourselves to the challenges which love requires. May we accept this challenge with dignity and grace. And now, please join me in saying our covenant.
Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in
is not in order of service, but it is number 657. So at the back of the hymnal to the responsive readings, number 657. And I'll read the non-italicized parts, and then I'd ask you to join me in the italicized parts. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and a feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies.
Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness.
Some beliefs are divisive, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences unify the gathering.
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nourish self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent to a changing world.
And other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the upper crust of life.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Gloria Miller, and I am the Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at Bay Area Unitarian Universalist Church, and my pronouns are she and her. So we have a special time for all ages today. I wanted to first give you a little insight, just a little peek into what the children do when they leave the service. One of the very first things that the kindergarten through 5th grade children do is they encounter a wonder box every Sunday in their classroom. And the teachers open the wonder box to see what's in there, and they discuss, and they think, well, why is that important for the lesson today? So I'm opening the wonder box, and I find a piece of bamboo. So we talk about bamboo, and then usually there's a story after the discussion. So I'm going to tell you the story of the Chinese bamboo tree. Once there were 3 Chinese farmers, and the first farmer planted bamboo, and she watered it, fertilized it every day, but nothing seemed to happen. And so she said, well, there must be something wrong with these seeds, and I'm just giving up. And after a few months, she stopped caring for the seed, and the bamboo plant never grew into the beautiful stalk of bamboo that it could have been. The second farmer planted bamboo and watered and fertilized it every day, and nothing seemed to be happening. He thought to himself, I must be doing something wrong. So he dug up the dirt where the bamboo had been planted to see what was wrong. And when he dug in the dirt, he damaged the roots. And the bamboo plant never grew into the beautiful stalk that it could have been. The third farmer planted her bamboo at the same time as the other 2 farmers. And she too watered and fertilized it every day. But she had something the other 2 farmers didn't have. Faith. She had faith in nature and faith in her own intuition and inner voice. She kept watering and fertilizing every day for 5 years. And during those 5 years, what she couldn't see is that the roots were growing deep in the ground. The seed was doing all kinds of internal work to be able to support the huge weight that it was about to reach. And then in the 5th year, she saw the first sprout of bamboo. And in the next 6 weeks, she watched it grow 90 feet. And that is true. That is something I just learned this week, is that is how bamboo grows. The big bamboo stalks that you see. It takes 5 years from the time they're planted to grow the roots, internalize everything, so that it can begin to grow outside the ground. So today is a special time for all ages. This week, many of our youth are returning to school. And so I wanted to commemorate that. Because the time to return to school, getting up every morning, facing the challenges and the joys of your day is here. A new grade, new learning, and definitely new teachers, and maybe even new friends. And all that newness can be daunting, but you're gonna do your best. You'll study, you'll listen, you'll participate, all the things that a good farmer would do to grow successfully. But beyond that, we want you to be like that third farmer and have faith. Faith that your hard work will pay off. One poor grade, one rude remark is not going to cause you to give up like the first farmer. Overthinking why things aren't the way you would like, trying to root out all the causes, doesn't always work either, and it can make things more frustrating. Placing your faith in the hard work, doing what's right will. And maybe you won't see the results right away, because education builds upon itself. Relationships with teachers and friends evolve, they become stronger, and it takes a while. Today, we have a badge to put, a tag to put on your backpack as you return to school, reminding you that your church community is thinking of you and rooting for your success. Know that you're loved, be kind in all you do, and so importantly, just be you. So if you're here today and you are returning to school, please come up and get your backpack tag. We're going to be blessing these on the 8th. They say, be loved, be kind, be you.
Our keeper of the flame this morning is Dax. We pass this flame of religious freedom from generation to generation.
Good morning. Now is the time in our service where we build community. This is probably the most sacred part of our service. We come and light candles and share silently any joy or sorrow or worry that you may have. Please come forward now if you'd like to share, if you'd like to light a candle. If you'd like to have a candle brought to you, please raise your hand and we'll bring you a candle. light one final candle for all of those of you who are online with us and those who are traveling and not with us this morning. Now we'll listen to our meditation song, Spirit of Life. Please remain seated as we sing Spirit of Life, number 123.
This is what you shall do. Love the earth and sun and animals. Despise riches. Give alms to everyone that asks. Stand up for the stupid and crazy. Devote your income and labor to others. Hate tyrants. Argue not concerning God. Have patience and indulgence toward people. Take off your hat to nothing known or unknown, to any man or number of men. Go free with the powerful and with uneducated persons, with the young and with the mothers of families. Re-examine all you have been told in school or church or any book, and dismiss whatever insults your own soul. And your very flesh shall be a great
When Reverend Katie asked me if I wanted to do a sermon this month, I hesitated. I told her I thought I hadn't been here long enough. I usually do a fairly personal talk. Most of the time it's about my own life lessons, my own spiritual growth. And it usually includes experiences I've had with my husband, Red, who generously allows me to share those experiences where he has been my teacher in my spiritual path, if you know what I mean. I felt as though people might not know me well enough to appreciate my sense of humor, or maybe even be interested in what I had to say. Well, of course, Katie, who knows exactly what to say, said maybe that's why you should do a talk, so people could know you better. So you see who won the argument. Here I am. Then I thought, what on earth could I tell you? What would you want to hear from me? What could I say that's interesting, enlightening, maybe even useful? So I began to make some notes about my background so that you could know me better. I grew up in a Baptist church. Let that sink in just for a minute. My mother dropped me off at church for Sunday school every Sunday, and I went alone to the Sunday service. You know, I never really thought to ask her why she and Daddy didn't go to church with me themselves. And later on I guessed it was because Mother was raised in a non-religious home, and Daddy had a strict Pentecostal upbringing in East Texas. Let that sink in. I think they had abandoned all hope of compromising on a religious path, even though they were God-fearing people, emphasis on the fearing. I remember the visits to my grandparents' farm in the deep piney woods of East Texas. We occasionally drove up there on Sunday afternoons. Before we sat down to share a meal, of course, my grandfather always said a blessing over the food. And he included a prayer for those who didn't pray, he said. That was my family, of course, the heathens from Baytown. He also issued a warning during that prayer for those of us who watched television. And most likely I had mentioned something I had seen on the Ed Sullivan TV show. I also remember as a kid, probably at age 8 or 9, spending a few days with my grandparents during the summer. They took me with them to their Assembly of God church, where I witnessed for the first time people speaking in tongues. Let that sink in. As I matured, I noticed how sad my mother seemed after those visits. We were regarded as sinners, even though my mother and dad were the most moral, kind-hearted, generous people I knew. So given that background, it's understandable that my parents may not have felt comfortable with organized religion. And in spite of that, they clearly recognized the need to give me a choice. So they drove me to the nearest Baptist church and dropped me off. I do have good memories of Vacation Bible School at Worcester Baptist Church, where I was taught that Jesus loved me and all the children of the world. And I have a clear memory of being baptized, a full-blown dunking. Let that sink in. And of course, memories of the sermons about hell, fire, and damnation still flare up occasionally. I don't remember exactly when I stopped going to church, but I do remember when I started again. It was when my younger sister died at the age of 29. Then my parents and I did start going to church together. We were looking for some way to process that profound loss of my sister. We joined the First Methodist Church in Houston, where Reverend Charles Allen was the preacher. Mother and Daddy had listened to him on TV for a long time and really liked him. He was light years different from the Baptist preachers I had grown up with. He preached love and grace and forgiveness, and every Sunday I left with a useful, practical life message. Then he retired, and in came another minister whose sermons had some Baptist overtones. I began to have flashbacks, so I quit going to church altogether again. My parents, though, joined a Methodist church in Baytown and were faithful members there the rest of their lives. They loved their church and their ministers. I visited other churches over the years, but I never quite felt like I belonged. I never felt honest, to tell you the truth, because I had doubts about what I was told I was supposed to believe. My spiritual path has included Buddhist meditation and lectures and a variety of other courses for personal growth and development. Most all of these lessons resonated with me more than the fundamentalist messages I had grown up with. Then when I retired, I began taking art lessons in Galveston. I joined a group of women from Galveston on a trip to Oaxaca, Mexico, and met two people there who became dear friends, Beth Sanderson and Margaret Canavan. I liked them immediately. I loved their sense of humor, their intelligence, their inclusive spirit. So I asked them about their church. Turns out, of course, they were Unitarian Universalists. They belonged to the UU Fellowship in Galveston. They didn't talk much about their church, and I had to actually ask them if it would be okay if I visited their church. This was something dramatically different than I was used to from church people. These two had not pressured me to come to their church. And of course now I know this is one of our challenges as UUs, our reluctance to invite people to come to church with us, out of a fear, I guess, that we'll seem to be religious zealots ready to pounce on them. Anyway, the first time I visited the fellowship, I felt right at home. That's where I met my dear friend Jerry Carr, who's in the choir, and Kathy Stovall, who's in the audience right now. And I still have very good friends there at that fellowship. I really believe I had always been a Unitarian Universalist. Even at 12 years old, sitting in that Baptist church, I had wondered why I was going to burn in hell when I wasn't even old enough to have thought about doing anything sinful. And I thought, what about the indigenous people in the Amazon who hadn't met a Christian missionary? Why were they doomed? You can imagine how relieved I was to find out that the Universalists had done away with hell over 200 years ago. So I was an active member of that fellowship in Galveston for 16 years. I loved the community, the welcoming spirit, and the challenge of new ways of thinking about religion and faith. Then the pandemic hit, and many things changed, including me. As much as I had loved Galveston, things seemed different. And frankly, I was ready for a minister. I knew I needed a more spiritual guidance and leadership, and a church community centered around common values and a desire for spiritual growth. And I have found all that here. I can't tell you how happy I am to be here and to have been welcomed so warmly into this community by all of you. So thank you. Since this sermon has been advertised as spiritual practice and faith, I feel compelled to share my perspective on that subject. And I do have a message I can share with you. First, let's talk about faith. I've often wished for a firm faith. I thought for a long time that unless I had a faith based in some certainty, that fundamental belief that there is an all-powerful entity pulling the strings, a Charlton Heston, white-haired old man in the sky version of God, someone who has a plan, that unless I could really believe that version of faith, I have no right to talk about faith. I know good people who do believe with certainty in a personal God, and I respect their belief. I know that it grounds them in their everyday lives and struggles. And I too believe there is a creative force, something that is unknown and unknowable to us, not personal, some mystery that shows up in nature, in relationships, in everyday miracles of life. And I've come to the realization that having doubts does not preclude having faith. Faith in human beings, faith in the beauty and wonder of nature, faith in believing that life will turn out, and as Theodore Parker said, faith that the arc of the moral universe bends toward justice. The renowned Benedictine nun, Joan Chittister, writes this: "The irony of the struggle is that this unknowing is, in the end, what faith is all about. One of the gifts of our faith is that we can continue to question and explore ideas of faith with others here in this community without fear of retribution, exclusion, or condemnation. Ours is a dynamic faith. We have no creed or doctrine that binds us to a fixed way of thinking or believing. We operate out of the common value of respect for every individual and creature and a commitment to live our lives in a way that can make the world a better place for everyone. What better faith is there than that? What helps me stay grounded in faith that people are inherently good and that the world is unfolding as it should is a spiritual practice. Most likely many of you have a spiritual practice already, and some of you may cringe at the thought. So if you're cringing, please just bear with me. I'm not about to preach. I think a spiritual practice can be most anything you do with regularity and intention. Meditation is one way, of course, but also running, or knitting, or painting, or playing a musical instrument, or singing, coming to church every Sunday, acts of social justice, building relationship. The key is intention, focus, and regularity. I found a really good book about this a few years ago. It's entitled Everyday Spiritual Practices, and it was available at the UUA bookstore. It's a compilation of essays by 40 different Unitarian Universalists. Some of them are UU ministers, and some of them are lay people. And they talk about their own personal spiritual practices. Reverend Rebecca Parker, for example, shares that her two practices are observing the Sabbath and tithing to her church. Others share practices such as creating a personal altar in their home, fasting, not one I would recommend, martial arts, journaling, you get the idea. I highly recommend this book if you're looking for a spiritual practice. My own practice continues to evolve. I've tried a number of things. Journaling is one, which I still do most days. I used to journal only when I had bad days, usually when I was in a dark place. Writing often opens up my perspective and allows me greater space to be hopeful. But I've begun to be more faithful now about daily journaling and focusing on what I'm grateful for and what has gone well that day. I've found that focusing on the things and the people in my life I'm thankful for has been really helpful. I think some of the best advice I've ever been given is the way out of despair is gratitude. Meditation is still difficult for me. I get a little antsy, but I continue to try. I have found a practice, though, that works for me. Every morning, when the weather allows, I go to the boathouse with our dogs. I take a cup of coffee and we watch the sun come up. I'm always moved by the sunrise, the sky, the clouds, and sometimes we'll see a dolphin or several. Those are bonus days. There have been a handful of mornings when a dolphin has come so close I could hear it breathe. Surely that was something sacred. And then I recite a Benedictine prayer that I've committed to memory. It's from a little book called Always We Begin Again by John McQuiston II. This is a brief guide on the 6th century Benedictine way of life. He adapted the guidelines into contemporary language so it's easier for us to access this particular approach to living. And this prayer is called the Morning Meditation. It helps me center for the day. I'd like to share it with you this morning. I'm not going to try to do it memorized because I'm afraid I'll forget right in the middle of it, so I have it written down. It takes about 2 minutes, so if you'd like to settle in and relax, and if you want to close your eyes, I think you'll be okay. I think we can trust everybody that's sitting next to you. I keep hitting you, I'm sorry. I do have these printed if you like it well enough to want a copy of it later. Okay, so is everybody settled in and relaxed? And this is what I've memorized, and I say this in the morning and sometimes often during the day. Okay. Grace to us and peace. We are given this day and awareness of its colors and sounds. These and other gifts, too numerous to name and infinitely rare, are received. For these gifts, we are thankful. We do not know what this day will bring. Life is the great enigma. Life is the great good. We expect good from this day. At all times and at this time, we participate in the great mystery. We acknowledge our contingent nature. We humble ourselves before that which we do not understand. When we consider the vast reaches of the cosmos, the incomprehensible forces at work in each moment, the numberless stories of each life, the millions of forgotten ancestors who preceded us, the untold acts of kindness which occur each day, we humble ourselves. We keep silence. Help us to save ourselves by forgetting ourselves. In every experience and thought, bring us into the certain knowledge that we are children of the infinite. Assist us to envision life as an opportunity to share in the creation of a caring environment. Open our mind's eye to the knowledge that if we give love, nothing in life, nor in death, nor things to come, nor things past, can separate us from the state of grace. Help us this day, both to receive grace and to give it. We believe that we are children of the unlimited and that we are enveloped in an unbounded network of friendships, affiliations, and relationships which are in time and beyond time. We believe in the ancient message that adopting an attitude of faith and hope toward this life and all that it brings will profoundly alter our lives and our universe. In our activities this day, we ask for the power to be continuously thankful, not only in our words, but in our hearts, to give up concern for ourselves and thus to walk in perfect freedom. May the vast mystery beyond comprehension fill us with joy and peace and hope this day and always. We lift up our hearts. Thank you for allowing me to share that with you. I sometimes recite this at other times during the day. Taking the time to pause and reflect helps me to reset and keeps me centered. My wish for you is that your spiritual practice supports you and strengthens your faith so you can live your best possible life. I'll close now with these words from Parker J. Palmer. The deeper our faith, the more doubt we must endure. The deeper our hope, the more prone we are to despair. The deeper our love, the more pain its loss will bring. These are a few of the paradoxes we must hold as human beings. If we refuse to hold them in hopes of living without doubt, despair, and pain, we also find ourselves living without faith, hope, and love. If we can hold these opposites together, we will have a more capacious and generous life. May it be so.
The offering that we take each Sunday isn't just a habit. It's an opportunity to reconnect with this place and with this people. The offering is a yes. When we give, we say yes to something we value. With our gifts freely given, may we say yes to this church and these people and this time. The offering will now be gratefully received. Please join me in blessing our offering, this gift from the abundance of my heart. Blesses me, our ministry, and the world. This is the time that I really think is an important time in our service, when we learn what's going on in our church, when we hear our announcements, when we see how we can help, how we can get new friends, how we can connect. And so it's time for our announcements. And before we start, Lori Miller has something she wants to say. Oh, she's not here. Okay. I know she said that. She did. I didn't make that up. So are you interested in helping enhance Sunday service? We're seeking volunteers to assist with our audiovisual equipment. We rotate volunteers, so you only have to serve about once a month, and you do not have to have extensive tech experience. Just a little computer knowledge is all you need. To get started, join us for a training session next Sunday after church at 12:30. Pizza will be served. That's worth coming for. If you're interested and you want more information, contact the church office at office@vauc.org, and let's work together to create a wonderful worship experience. Are you going to speak instead of Gloria?
I was, yes, please.
Okay.
Sorry, I was buried under 47 families.
It's all yours.
Thank you. Okay. I took my glasses off 3 because I'm old. So my name is Christy Gates, and I'm in the nursery with our little ones, and they asked me to say something today. So I wrote this last night. I have squinty little eyes. I always have. When I was growing up, I simply hated my tiny, very little eyes. But one Sunday morning, one of my adorable little charges looked up at me and said, "Miss Christy, you was the tallest Chinese person I ever did see." In that precious moment with a child, a lifetime of my own disappointment in my appearance was wiped clean. I am the tallest Chinese person this kid had ever seen. I was absolutely howling. How cool is that? So today, they asked me to talk about why I chose to dedicate some of my time and energy to being with our young people. I'd like to give you some beautiful, altruistic, and motivating reason, but the truth is, I serve our kids because it fills my soul, it heals me, gives me perspective, and keeps me young at heart. For me, working with our youngest UUs is both a passion and a privilege. I want BAUC to be a place where children feel welcomed, loved, and valued. Every time I walk into our church home, I get the opportunity to be a part of something that is much bigger than me. I lost my place. In our faith tradition, we encourage children to explore who they are, who they want to become, and how they are going to put that journey into practice. Walking this journey with young people is incredible. It's beautiful, it's tough, it's inspiring, it's tragic, and it is real. On the great days, we laugh together. On the hard days, we cry together. But no matter how someone's week went, we are together. And together gives you the opportunity to offer the power of a smile, a kind word, a listening ear, or a hug, and change a life. I have so many hilarious stories. I always tell myself that one of these days I am going to write a book of all the funny stories that these kids have told me. So I'll leave you with one story that I will cherish forever, as one of our own that I miss dearly to this day. It was a Wednesday night, and our childcare room was absolutely busting at the seams. Energetic children who had not had the opportunity to burn off all of their energy were crawling the walls. So I decided we were going to play hide and seek. Sweet little 6-year-old Grayson decided the best place to hide was behind the couch. And he'd been there hiding and thinking for a while. Don't judge me, when they're hiding, it's quiet. So all of a sudden, out popped my very favorite deep thinker. "Miss Christy, I need to know, are you American donkey people?" I won't tell you what I thought he was trying to call me when he called me an American donkey person. My mom would flip if I cursed in church. So confused, I was trying to figure out what this kid needed to know. So I asked, "Grayson, a what?" "You know, Miss Christy, you know, an American donkey person." He was clearly equally confused, as he was asking a perfectly legitimate question, and I was the fool who didn't know what he was talking about. So me, as the light bulb goes off, I start cracking up. Grown-ups call American donkey people Democrats. And just like that. If you are so led, please consider joining our RA team as we make this walk with young people. You won't be bored, and you get your own fun stories to tell. Thank you, guys.
Wow. Calling on Nolan high schoolers. Ready to hang out with some awesome people, play games, enjoy some delicious food. Join us for our monthly Youth Connect on Saturday, August 17th from 4 to 6 p.m. in the youth room at church. This month, it's a holly party, and we're turning up the color at the Youth Connect. Wear older clothes and prepare for an explosion of color. I wonder if they're gonna have paintball. Fun and good times. Bring a friend and a snack to share. Let's make some memories together. Join us next Sunday at 11 as we welcome our guest speaker, Catherine Vance. If you haven't heard Catherine, it's a treat. Try to be here. She's wonderful. Catherine is a member of our congregation and a UU ministry candidate. Her sermon, The Hurt Room, will explore the complex roots of anger and violence. How do we transform anger into positive action? Join us for this thought-provoking message. And immediately after today's service, members and friends are invited to join us to mingle over coffee and enjoy light snacks in Copper Hall. And if you want to be part of that, if you want to bring a snack or you want to help us set up, there's a sign-up sheet in Copper Hall, and just sign your name and let them know you'd like to help. After coffee and fellowship, families, parents, and children are invited to bring your appetite and a dish to share for a family potluck lunch. Join us at 12:30 today in Copper Hall for a gathering while the children play and are cared for. Parents can engage in meaningful discussions about parenting topics. Don't miss out on this perfect blend of food, fun, and parenting insights. I've lost my place. That doesn't ever happen. Oh, and finally, that's probably the next thing. And finally, at BAUUC, we understand the importance of staying connected with our community. That's why we offer a weekly newsletter that comes out every Tuesday. And if you want to know what's happening in the church, not only these announcements, but more, sign up at BAUUC.org or use the QR code on the screen and join our community of spiritual growth and fellowship. And now, our closing hymn is hymn number 168, One More Step.
We extinguish our chalice today with these closing words by the UU minister, Reverend William Schultz. This is the mission of our faith, to teach the fragile art of hospitality, to revere both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to witness to all that we must hold the whole